Hey everyone, this is Six Path Weeb, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today, we're diving into another exciting fanfic scenario. What if Naruko could fuse with her shadow clones? Part 2. Disclaimer, this content is created purely for entertainment and discussion purposes. I do not own any of the anime footage featured in this video, all rights and credits go to their respective creators and copyright holders. Alright, let's jump right in. It had been 6 years since Naruko began training under her sensei. She had learned a great deal from him, everything she needed to know about becoming a skilled shinobi. Today marked the final day of her training, and tomorrow, she would officially graduate, stepping into the world as a true shinobi. The academy had been relatively easy for Naruko. The curriculum primarily covered fundamental techniques, many of which she had already mastered. The lessons focused on low-level jutsus, which she had long since perfected. Even taijutsu became second nature to her after dedicating months solely to its practice. Despite the simplicity of the academy's teachings, she still cherished her time there. She had formed friendships, and the instructors had always been supportive. 2 years of intensive taijutsu training had significantly enhanced her abilities. She had also utilized shadow clones to accelerate her mastery of 3 elemental jutsus. She had perfected 2 earth release techniques and 2 wind release techniques. However, lightning release proved more challenging. While she had refined it to a level where it was effective in battle, she had yet to fully master it. It remained a replica of the original technique rather than a perfected version. Now, Naruko and her sensei, Tenzo, stood ready for their final sparring session. Naruko, remove your chakra weights. You need to get accustomed to fighting without them, Tenzo instructed. Naruko was taken aback. She had been told to wear them at all times, even outside of training. Over time, she had forgotten what it felt like to move without them. However, she understood why Tenzo had given the command and complied. The moment she removed them, she immediately felt the difference. Her body felt significantly lighter, her movements were faster, her jumps higher. A surge of confidence overtook her as she marveled at her newfound speed. Very well. Begin. Tenzo announced. Without hesitation, Naruko launched herself at him, the sudden increase in speed making her momentarily overconfident. However, she quickly realized the stark contrast between her abilities and those of her sensei. No matter how many punches she threw, he evaded each one effortlessly. Recognizing this, she leapt back, exhaling sharply. Hey, guess this won't be as easy as I thought, she murmured to herself. She attempted to formulate a strategy while dodging Tenzo's attacks, but the intensity of the battle left her little time to think. Thinking alone won't be enough, huh? She mused, shifting her focus entirely to the fight. Naruko threw a barrage of kicks and punches, but Tenzo either blocked or dodged them all. She quickly realized how much more she needed to train. This sparring match was a clear reminder of the gap between her current strength and the level she aspired to reach. But she refused to give up. With renewed determination, she intensified her attacks, aiming for any opening she could find. Yet, every attempt seemed ineffective. Frustration threatened to creep in, but she channeled that energy into pushing forward. Though her strikes became more aggressive, her technique remained disciplined. Her form still had very few vulnerabilities, even in the heat of battle. Tenzo observed her closely, believing he had spotted an opening. You still have a long way to go, Naruko. Leaving an opening like that, just as he moved to take advantage of it, he realized his mistake. Naruko had tricked him. With a swift maneuver, she dodged his counter and nearly landed a decisive kick. Tenzo smiled, impressed. To think that an academy student had successfully deceived him, it was remarkable. With a light chuckle, he swiftly caught her leg midair and gently pushed her back to the ground. Exhausted, Naruko struggled to stand. As soon as she managed to get up, her legs gave out, and she collapsed again. The sparring match had lasted for hours, draining her completely. Tenzo laughed heartily. Well done, Naruko. You never fail to impress me. Really? She asked eagerly, her fatigue momentarily forgotten. Yes. And as a reward, I'll treat you to ramen, he said with a smile. Let's go. Naruko cheered. For years, Tenzo had stepped away from his duties as an Anbu operative, dedicating all his time to training Naruko under the orders of the third Hokage. Now that she was about to become a Genin, he knew she wouldn't need his guidance as much. She would soon be occupied with missions and have a new sensei to lead her. Though he felt a sense of pride in her growth, he couldn't deny that he would miss their time together. Their bond had strengthened over the years, and watching her progress had been a privilege. Still, he trusted that she would continue to thrive. With her graduation approaching, he planned to resume his work with the Anbu. After finishing their meal, the two of them made their way to the Hokage Rock. Naruko gazed out at the village, knowing that this might be the last time she would see her sensei for a long time. She understood that once he returned to his Anbu duties, his schedule would be packed. The thought saddened her, but she knew there was little she could do to change it. "So, I guess this is goodbye?" she asked softly. "For now," Tenzo replied. "I have no doubt that you will become an incredible shinobi. I believe in you. And don't worry, whenever I have the chance, I'll come to visit." He then smirked, his tone turning teasing. "All right, Naruko. You'd better prepare for tomorrow. It's a big day, after all. You wouldn't want to fail, would you?" Naruko chuckled. "Of course not. I'll become strong, stronger than you," she declared confidently. Tenzo laughed. "I have no doubt that you will." They exchanged a final nod before parting ways. As Naruko made her way home, the sky had darkened. She knew she needed a good night's rest. Tomorrow, she would finally step into the world as a true ninja. Naruko woke up earlier than usual. She quickly had breakfast and headed outside for a morning run. She sprinted at full speed around the village, eager to test her limits now that she had removed her training weights. The difference was significant, her speed had improved greatly. However, she knew there was still a long way to go. The recent sparring session with her sensei had made it clear that she needed to train even harder if she wanted to become the strongest ninja. After a brief rest, Naruko made her way to the academy. She arrived earlier than usual, so the classroom was mostly empty. Since her friends hadn't arrived yet, she took a seat by herself. As expected, a group of students was fawning over Sasuke. Naruko found herself reflecting on their last conversation. Sasuke had told her she didn't understand anything, and she had thought she did, but maybe she was wrong. A few minutes passed, and her friends arrived. Naruko sat next to Shikamaru and Choji, while Kiba and Shino took their seats behind them. The room was filled with chatter until Iruka entered. The students, aware that exams were approaching, grew nervous. Some were confident they would pass easily, while others were more anxious. As soon as Iruka stepped in, the classroom fell silent. He greeted the students, and they responded in unison. Then, he began preparing them for the first exam, the written test. His assistant, Mizuki, distributed the papers. Naruko had always aimed for an average score, but since this was the final exam, she wanted to challenge herself. She had recently perfected the transformation jutsu under Iruka's guidance, and now she was determined to excel in the written test as well. She carefully answered each question, and when time was up, Mizuki collected the papers. Some students were relieved, while others seemed uncertain about their performance. "For your final exam, each of you must successfully create a clone," Iruka announced. After a brief pause, he continued, "Wait here until your name is called, then proceed to the next room." One by one, students were called in for their turn. Finally, it was Naruko's turn. Her friends wished her luck, and she thanked them before stepping into the next room. Iruka and Mizuki sat at a table covered with Leaf Village headbands, waiting to assess her performance. Naruko was excited. Iruka instructed her to demonstrate the clone jutsu, but what happened next took everyone by surprise. Not only did Naruko perform the technique without using hand signs, but she also created multiple solid clones with ease. Iruka immediately passed her. After the exams concluded, Iruka congratulated the class. Every student had successfully passed. They celebrated together before heading home. Naruko, however, decided to stay outside a little longer. Home felt too quiet, and she enjoyed the peaceful night air. She lay on the Hokage Rock, gazing at the vast, starry sky. It was a beautiful, clear night, no clouds in sight. She often found comfort in simply watching the stars. Her moment of peace was interrupted when she saw a figure swiftly leaping above her, disappearing into the forest. They seemed to be in a hurry. Curious, Naruko decided to follow. It didn't take long for her to catch up, and she quickly recognized the person, Mizuki. Mizuki had always been kind to her, so she didn't immediately assume anything suspicious. "Mizuki, what's going on?" she asked, noticing the scroll in his hand. A thought crossed her mind, had Mizuki stolen it? But she hesitated to believe it. Mizuki stopped and turned to face her. "Ah, Naruko. I didn't expect you to be here," he said with an odd smirk. Something about his tone unsettled her. "What are you doing, Mizuki?" she asked again. Mizuki chuckled before answering. "Isn't it obvious? I'm taking this scroll. With the knowledge inside, I'll gain incredible power." Naruko's eyes widened as she realized the situation. She now understood exactly what the scroll was and what Mizuki was trying to do. But, you're a leaf ninja, she said, her voice firm. If you're willing to betray your village, then you aren't a ninja at all. She took a stance, ready to stop him. Mizuki sneered. You're so naive, Naruko. His expression darkened. Do you even know why people look at you the way they do? Why they whisper behind your back? Naruko hesitated. She had always wondered about that. It's because you, Mizuki continued, are the very reason this village suffered years ago. Naruko's heart pounded as Mizuki revealed what she had long suspected but never wanted to believe. She had come up with theories before, one of them being that the fox spirit was inside her, but she had never wanted it to be true. Before she could fully process what he had said, Mizuki lunged at her. Naruko pushed aside her swirling thoughts and focused on the fight. She dodged his attack with ease. Compared to her sensei, Mizuki's speed was nothing. Suddenly, a second Naruko emerged from the ground, attempting to grab Mizuki. He barely evaded the attack, his instinct saving him just in time. Mizuki's confidence faltered. You actually know advanced techniques? He muttered in disbelief. Naruko smirked. Guess I'm full of surprises. Mizuki's expression twisted with anger. He cut himself off, clearly frustrated. He launched another attack, but Naruko was faster. She dodged his strikes and countered with precision. Mizuki managed to land a few hits, but his attacks became more reckless with each passing moment. Naruko used this to her advantage. She vanished in a puff of smoke, just a clone. The real Naruko reappeared a short distance away, already preparing a technique. She took a deep breath, compressed the air, and released a large sphere of wind chakra. Mizuki barely dodged, but the attack grazed his leg, sending him stumbling. He tried to retreat, but Naruko sensed his presence and pursued him. Just as she was about to strike, she was caught in a genjutsu. Her vision blurred. Not good, she thought. I need to break free. Summoning her focus, she dispelled the illusion just in time to see a puppet charging toward her with a blade. She barely had time to react. Looks like I have to use this, she thought. Without forming hand signs, Naruko's body became surrounded by dark red lightning. Her speed and reflexes increased dramatically. She had designed this technique after reading about the fourth Hokage's battle with the Raikage. Though her version was far from perfect, it was effective. Using her enhanced speed, she dodged the puppet's attack and quickly located Mizuki again. Mizuki was livid. Every strategy he had attempted had failed. Fueled by frustration, he launched a reckless attack. Naruko reinforced her arm with a layer of rock and delivered a powerful strike, knocking him to the ground. She exhaled heavily. That took longer than it should have, she muttered. Glancing at the scroll beside the unconscious Mizuki, she grew curious. What was so important that he was willing to betray the village for it? She unrolled it and skimmed through its contents. The first jutsu listed was one she already knew. Not interesting, she mumbled, flipping through more techniques. Then, her eyes lit up as she spotted something familiar, the signature move of her idol, the fourth Hokage. Before she could read further, she sensed someone approaching. Quickly, she memorized what was written about the technique, then closed the scroll. Iruka arrived moments later, looking confused. Naruko? What are you doing here? She grinned. I saw Mizuki running with the scroll, so I followed him and stopped him, she said cheerfully. Iruka took a moment to process her words, then blinked in surprise. Wait. You defeated Mizuki? He looked at her torn clothes and battle-worn state. Naruko just laughed, ignoring his second question. Naruko was given recognition for safely returning the scroll. After she and Iruka reported to the third Hokage, he expressed his gratitude and permitted them to leave. As Iruka was about to depart, he noticed that Naruko remained behind. Naruko, come on. I'll treat you to some ramen, Iruka offered warmly. Go ahead without me. I want to talk to Gigi for a bit, Naruko responded quietly. Sensing that something was on her mind, Iruka decided to respect her space and left. Hiruzen already had an idea of what she wanted to discuss. He had seen everything through his crystal ball. However, he wasn't sure how to respond. He couldn't keep the truth from her any longer. Gigi, am I really different? Is the nine-tailed fox truly sealed inside me? Naruko asked with a hint of sadness in her voice. Hiruzen sighed, his expression gentle. No, Naruko. You are still the same person you have always been. Yes, the fox is sealed within you, but that doesn't change who you are. You are a remarkable individual, and I care for you deeply. Naruko fell into deep thought. Hearing those words reassured her, yet a part of her still felt uncertain. Gigi, why was it sealed inside me? She asked again. She already knew the answer but wanted to hear it directly from him. It was to protect the village, Naruko. The fourth Hokage made the decision to prevent disaster. If the fox hadn't been sealed, it could have caused great destruction, Hiruzen explained. He noticed Naruko's expression shift. She seemed to find comfort in knowing that her burden had a purpose. If it was for the village, she felt she could endure anything, even carrying the presence of the mighty beast within her. Gigi, are there any books about the nine-tailed fox or anything related to it? Naruko inquired. She wanted to understand the entity sealed within her. Hiruzen stood up and walked over to a shelf filled with books and scrolls. Of course. You may read them, but be sure to return them, he said, pointing to a collection of texts. Naruko's lips curled into a small smile. Then, scratching the back of her head sheepishly, she admitted, by the way, Gigi, I took a look at the Forbidden Scroll. The Forbidden Scroll contained techniques that were considered too dangerous to use. It had been written by the first Hokage himself, and the techniques were restricted due to their immense chakra requirements. If someone without sufficient chakra attempted to use them, they could be overwhelmed. However, Naruko possessed an extraordinary chakra reserve due to her unique heritage. Oh? And did you find anything interesting? Hiruzen asked, intrigued. Naruko grinned slightly and held up a piece of paper on which she had copied a particular jutsu. Hiruzen was momentarily surprised, but upon reflection, he realized it was expected. Naruko, just be careful. Those techniques are forbidden for a reason, he advised. Still, he had no doubt that she would succeed. After all, she had the potential to accomplish incredible things. Naruko nodded, her determination evident. Hi, Gigi, she said, gathering the books and scrolls related to the nine-tailed fox. Thank you again. Of course. I trust you, Hiruzen said softly, watching her leave. Once she was gone, he returned to his desk and resumed his paperwork, deep in thought. Naruko woke up feeling completely refreshed after a long and exhausting day. The sun was already high in the sky, meaning she had slept longer than planned. The previous night had been particularly overwhelming, as she had discovered an important secret about herself, specifically, about the powerful entity sealed within her. At first, the revelation had troubled her, but after a conversation with her Gigi, she found comfort in knowing that everything had been done for the well-being of the village. If it meant protecting her home, she was willing to shoulder any responsibility, even one as heavy as housing a powerful being. Stretching and yawning, Naruko's eyes fell upon the books and scrolls she had gathered the day before. All right, since I have nothing else planned today besides preparing my ninja registration form, I should take the time to learn everything I can about this. Her gaze then shifted to another scroll, a hint of excitement sparking in her eyes. After quickly eating lunch, she created several shadow clones to assist her. One clone was assigned to prepare the registration form, while others were tasked with studying the basics of a technique she had hurriedly copied the previous day. Meanwhile, she focused on reading about the entity sealed within her. She allocated 25 clones specifically to study the new technique, as shadow clones generally took longer to grasp new concepts. The day before, she had copied the scroll in such a rush that she hadn't fully absorbed its contents. The method had been necessary to avoid attracting Irika's attention, but now it was time to properly understand what she had written. The technique was called Hiraishin, a powerful ability that had been refined and perfected by the fourth Hokage. While originally created by the second Hokage, the fourth had improved upon it significantly. Naruko carefully examined the details and noted the unique kunai used for the technique. Unlike standard kunai, these had 3 prongs instead of 1, and their handles carried a special formula that enabled the teleportation effect. The technique required marking a target with this formula, which could be applied with a simple touch and could not be easily removed. By accessing a dimensional void, the user could teleport instantly to any marked location, regardless of distance. Anything connected to the user, whether an object, another person, or anything linked to their chakra, would be transported along with them. Naruko couldn't help but admire the complexity of the jutsu. She also realized that if she combined it with her lightning-based techniques, she could potentially enhance her speed even further. However, she was still frustrated that her lightning-based techniques didn't amplify her physical abilities to the extent that she had hoped. The Raikage's lightning mode, for instance, provided a much greater physical enhancement. Still, she was proud that she had managed to replicate even a fraction of that power. If she trained diligently, she could eventually master the Hiraishin without needing hand signs. Determined to make progress, she sent a clone to order some of the special kunai used in the technique. Fortunately, the shop still carried them due to the fourth Hokage's past orders. After returning home with the kunai, Naruko allowed the clone to disperse, instantly absorbing its memories. She then created 25 more clones to practice handling the unique kunai, as they were heavier than standard ones. Adjusting to their weight and combat potential would take time, but she was eager to master them. As the day wore on, she finally finished reading about the entity sealed inside her. The information was extensive, and she had learned much about its nature and origins. The scroll described 8 other beings similar to the one within her, tailed creatures, each possessing unique abilities and a varying number of tails. In total, there were 9 tailed beasts, with the one inside her being the most formidable, possessing the highest amount of chakra. She also discovered that there were others like her, individuals who had a tailed beast sealed within them. They were known as Jinchuriki, and throughout history, they had often been misunderstood and feared. The tailed beasts themselves were seen as dangerous and uncontrollable, leading people to distrust and isolate their hosts as well. This realization helped her finally understand why she had always been treated differently by the villagers. One historical figure stood out in her reading, the first Hokage, who had managed to subdue all the tailed beasts using his wood-style abilities. To maintain peace among the villages, he had distributed the creatures as a means of balance. However, he had kept the 9-tailed beast within his own village, sealing it inside his wife, Mito Uzumaki. Naruko's breath caught as she noticed something significant. Mito Uzumaki. She had the same last name as me. As she read further, she discovered that after Mito, another Uzumaki, Kushina, had inherited the role of the 9 tails Jinchuriki. Then, after Kushina, the responsibility had fallen to her. For the first time, Naruko began to piece together the truth about her lineage. The Uzumaki clan had been a powerful and well-known family, but at some point, they had been nearly wiped out. She had never known why, nor had she ever met another Uzumaki. Was she the only one left? Shaking off the lingering questions, she continued reading. The scroll detailed each of the tailed beasts, their unique abilities, and their known locations. However, what puzzled her most was the reason behind the 9 tails attack on the village. Why did it go on a rampage? She pondered this deeply. Was it really just to avoid being sealed? Could that alone have driven it to such destruction? Or was there something more to the story? Naruko found herself questioning everything she had assumed about the 9 tails. She didn't want to label it as evil simply because others had said so. She wanted to understand. The scroll explained that Jinchuriki could communicate with their tailed beasts. Intrigued, she decided to attempt it. Dismissing all her clones, she sat down, closed her eyes, and concentrated. At first, nothing happened. Minutes passed as she focused harder, until finally, she felt something shift. When she opened her eyes, she found herself standing in what looked like a vast underground corridor. The damp walls and dim lighting gave the place an eerie resemblance to a sewer. A deep, rumbling growl echoed through the space. Naruko immediately recognized the presence. Following the sound, she turned a corner and found herself standing before a massive cage. "Come closer," a low, powerful voice commanded. As Naruko cautiously stepped forward, a large claw shot toward her, stopping just short of the bars. "I'd devour you if not for this seal," the creature snarled. Naruko knew it was trying to intimidate her, and truthfully, it was working. Still, she held her ground. "So, you're the 9 tails, huh?" she said, keeping her voice steady. "You came here on your own. You know where you are, and you know who I am," the beast replied, its crimson eyes locked onto her. Despite the tension, Naruko let out a small laugh. "You're definitely intimidating, I'll give you that." She then noticed the slightest flinch from the creature. "Interesting. It feels strange calling you 9 tails. And if I'm not mistaken, you don't seem to like it either," she observed. "So, what should I call you?" The beast's eyes widened slightly in surprise. No human had ever asked such a question before. For centuries, it had been regarded as nothing more than a force of destruction, an entity to be feared. "What does it matter?" it grumbled. "Well, you already know my name," Naruko pointed out. "Seems fair that I know yours too." The beast let out a deep chuckle. "You're the first human to ever ask me that," it admitted. "Fine. Since you asked, my name is Kurama." Naruko smiled. "Kurama, huh? I like it." Kurama regarded her curiously. He still held a deep-seated resentment toward humans, but something about this girl was different. "So, what do you want, kid?" he asked. Naruko's expression softened. "I just have some questions. If that's okay with you." Kurama sighed, then smirked. "Sure. Not like I have anything better to do. Thank you. Let's get straight to the point. Why did you attack the Hidden Leaf Village 12 years ago? Naruko asked, her expression serious. She was determined to understand Kurama's intentions from that time. Kurama let out a deep sigh. He was reluctant to admit the truth, but he also didn't want to lie. I was under the influence of an Uchiha who used their powerful visual abilities to control me. No matter what people think, I don't enjoy causing meaningless destruction. Naruko felt a sense of relief but kept her composure. She pondered over who could have been behind it. But who could it have been? The only Uchiha capable of controlling you was a legendary figure. But he passed away long ago, she continued. Is there a chance the one who controlled you is still alive? After all, almost all of the Uchiha clan was wiped out, except for 2. I'm not certain, but I doubt he was a leaf shinobi. If that's the case, he may still be out there, Kurama replied. He hadn't engaged in a proper conversation in a long time, so this interaction was refreshing. If that's true, he could still be a threat. Anyone strong enough to control you and use you for destruction must be incredibly powerful. I wonder who it could be. Naruko muttered to herself. Then she looked back at Kurama. Anyway, thank you for talking with me. Is there anything else you'd like to say? Kurama simply lay down and closed his eyes, drifting into sleep without answering. Naruko smiled slightly and stepped out. As she exited, she noticed how late it had become and the mess of books and scrolls she had scattered around. With a sigh, she summoned a few shadow clones to clean up before heading to her room, exhausted. She placed a hand over her stomach and smiled softly. A moment later, her clones finished tidying up, and she finally settled into bed for the night. The next morning, Naruko woke up stretching and yawning. After a quick breakfast, she headed outside. She began her routine exercises before training with her newly acquired kunai. After several hours of training, she returned home to freshen up and prepare to submit her ninja registration form. Upon reaching the Hokage's office, she handed the form to the third Hokage and took a seat in front of him. Suddenly, she sensed someone approaching. Turning toward the door, she watched as it slowly creaked open, revealing a young boy rushing forward with a shuriken in hand. "Fight me, old man!" the boy shouted, aiming directly for the third Hokage. Naruko was about to intervene but paused when she saw the boy trip and fall flat on his face. She couldn't help but chuckle at the failed attempt. She had a good idea of who he was. The boy, however, took notice of her laughter and immediately grabbed her shirt. "You set a trap, didn't you?" he accused. "Huh? You tripped on your own feet, you fool," Naruko replied, removing his grip from her shirt. Despite her dismissive tone, the boy continued reaching for her, but Naruko held his arm firmly, preventing him from grabbing her again. "Let go of his hand. He is the third Hokage's grandson," a tall shinobi stated, stepping into the room. Naruko noticed the smirk on the boy's face, which irked her slightly. Without hesitation, she grabbed the boy's shirt. "That doesn't mean anything to me. Just don't try that again," she said before gently pushing him back. The boy looked up, startled. Everyone else treated him with special care once they learned he was the third Hokage's grandson, but Naruko didn't. After finishing her business, Naruko stepped outside, intending to head home. However, she quickly realized that someone was following her. "What do you want?" she asked, receiving no response. "You're not fooling anyone, you know?" A chuckle came from behind her. "Hey, impressive. You saw through my disguise. I've heard about you. I want you to be my boss, please train me," the young boy exclaimed enthusiastically. "Huh? Why would I make you my student?" Naruko asked, raising an eyebrow. "Come on, please, boss. I need your help," he continued, pleading. Naruko crossed her arms. "And why do you want to train so badly?" The boy's expression became more serious. "Because I want to become Hokage. Only then will people see me for who I really am instead of just the Hokage's grandson." Naruko blinked, slightly confused. "What do you mean?" "My grandfather named me after the village itself, Konohamaru. Everyone knows my name, but no one calls me that. They only see me as the Hokage's grandson. I want to change that by earning the title of Hokage myself." Naruko smirked. "That's foolish. If you want to be acknowledged, you should first become a strong and respectable shinobi. There's no way you'll become Hokage before defeating me." Konohamaru's eyes widened at her words. "There you are, young master," the shinobi from earlier said as he approached. He shot a glance at Naruko, his expression filled with disapproval. Naruko sighed internally. That look again. She thought, slightly annoyed. The shinobi took hold of Konohamaru's arm. "Young master, let's go home. I am your best chance at becoming Hokage," he insisted, pulling him away. "Let me go." Konohamaru protested, struggling. "Please, young master. If you associate with someone like this, it will only hold you back," the shinobi said. Naruko's eyes narrowed. "What did you just say?" she asked, her tone sharp. The shinobi hesitated. "This has nothing to do with you, young lady," he corrected himself. Before he could say another word, Naruko moved swiftly, catching him off guard with a well-placed kick, sending him tumbling backward. By the time he regained his composure, Naruko and Konohamaru were already gone. As they ran, Konohamaru looked at Naruko in awe. He hadn't even seen the moment she created a shadow clone to assist in the escape. Plus, the speed and precision of her movements were incredible. That was amazing. Konohamaru thought to himself, eyes wide with admiration. After putting some distance between them and the shinobi, Naruko finally stopped and set Konohamaru down. "Sorry about that. I acted on impulse," she admitted with a small laugh, rubbing the back of her head. "Don't worry, Ni-chan. He shouldn't have said that to you anyway," Konohamaru replied. Naruko blinked, surprised by how casually he addressed her. But deep down, she felt genuinely happy. Konohamaru grinned. "Wow. I have a long way to go if I want to surpass you and beat you." Naruko chuckled. "You sure do. You better train harder than ever before." Yeah, stop lecturing me. Because from now on, you're my rival," Konohamaru declared boldly. Naruko smiled. "Well, starting tomorrow, I'll be taking my first steps as a shinobi. But one day, I'll face you for the title of Hokage. I'll be looking forward to it, Konohamaru." She gave him a thumbs up, her signature wide grin on her face. The following day, as usual, Naruko was seated beside Shikamaru and Choji in class. Today was particularly significant. It was the day teams and their assigned sensei would be announced. Although Naruko had a strong suspicion regarding her team placement, she still held a preference for partnering with either Shikamaru or Choji. Unfortunately, they were destined to form the traditional Ino-Shika-Cho trio alongside Ino. She already had a good idea of her assigned teammates, but the realization was still not ideal. In hindsight, holding back during training seemed like a poor decision. Well, that plan completely backfired, she thought, letting out a quiet sigh. Iruka soon began calling out team assignments. After announcing several groups, he finally reached hers. Team 7. Haruno Sakura. "Here it comes," Naruko thought with mild anticipation. "Uzumaki Naruko and Uchiha Sasuke," Iruka concluded. "Great. Just my luck. I really don't get along with these two, especially her," Naruko sighed internally. She understood the importance of teamwork, but working with Sakura felt particularly challenging. Among all the students, Sakura was undoubtedly the most enthusiastic admirer of Sasuke. Sasuke himself wasn't so bad, he was quiet and rarely caused trouble, but the team dynamics were bound to be frustrating. Once all teams were announced, the class was dismissed for a lunch break before meeting their sensei. Ideally, this time could be used to bond with teammates, but Naruko didn't see that happening. If she attempted to initiate a conversation, she knew she would likely be brushed off. After the break, most teams had already met their respective mentors, yet Team 7 remained in the classroom, waiting. "He's late." All three shared the same thought as they continued waiting. Finally, their new sensei arrived. Naruko instantly recognized him, she had read about him before. Despite her initial frustrations, she felt a small spark of excitement at the prospect of training under such an esteemed mentor. The man had spiky silver hair that slanted to one side and dark gray eyes, though only one was visible due to his forehead protector covering the other. His attire was standard for a jonin, but there was something distinct about his presence. My first impression of you all? Well, you don't seem too bad," he remarked. "Meet me on the rooftop." Without another word, he disappeared. Without hesitation, Naruko followed, vanishing before her teammates even registered what had happened. She arrived just after their sensei, causing him to take note of her speed. "Impressive. I know she trained under Tenzo, but he didn't disclose much about her skills. Looks like I'll have to see for myself," he thought. Sasuke and Sakura soon arrived as well. Sasuke, in particular, seemed surprised to see Naruko already there, he hadn't even noticed her passing them. "All right, let's begin with introductions," their sensei said. "What do you want to know?" Sakura inquired. "Your likes, dislikes, future aspirations. That sort of thing, he responded. Why don't you introduce yourself first? Sakura suggested. That might be the most reasonable thing you've said, Sakura, Naruko mused silently. Me? Alright. My name is Hatake Kakashi. I have no interest in sharing my likes or dislikes. As for my dreams. I have a few hobbies, Kakashi replied vaguely. Well, that didn't reveal much, Naruko noted. Now, your turn, Kakashi continued. Alright. My name is Uzumaki Naruko. I enjoy training and eating ramen. What I dislike are those who judge others without understanding them. My dream is to become the strongest shinobi and, one day, the greatest Hokage. As for hobbies, I'd say training, Naruko stated confidently. Interesting, Kakashi thought, making a mental note of her response. Next, he turned to Sasuke. My name is Uchiha Sasuke. I dislike many things and don't particularly like anything. I wouldn't call it a dream, but I have a goal, to restore my clan and... He hesitated momentarily before continuing, to find a certain person. As expected, Kakashi observed. Revenge, huh? Naruko thought to herself. Meanwhile, Sakura was entirely captivated by Sasuke's demeanor. And lastly, you, Kakashi said, looking at Sakura. My name is Haruno Sakura. What I like is... Well, the person I like is... And my dream for the future is... She trailed off, stealing glances at Sasuke. Girls at this age seem more interested in romance than in ninjutsu, Kakashi mused, shaking his head slightly. And that's why I struggle with her sometimes, Naruko thought. That concludes introductions. Tomorrow, we'll officially begin our duties as shinobi. We will start with a special exercise, Kakashi announced. What kind of exercise? Naruko asked. Survival training, he replied. The three Genin exchanged puzzled glances. We'll be engaging in a training session, Kakashi elaborated. But not just any training, I'll be your opponent, he chuckled slightly at their confused expressions. What kind of training? And why are you laughing? Sakura asked, now wary. If I told you, you might back out, Kakashi said cryptically. Back out? Why? Sakura pressed further. Of the 27 graduates in your class, only 9 will actually advance to the rank of Genin. The test we are about to undertake has a 66% failure rate, Kakashi explained. Naruko's eyes widened slightly. A 66% failure rate? I can't. No, I won't fail. I will become the greatest Hokage, she declared, clenching her fist. Only after speaking did she realize she had said it out loud, causing her to glance away in mild embarrassment. Kakashi studied her momentarily before continuing. In any case, we will meet tomorrow morning at the training field. I will assess each of your abilities and weaknesses. Make sure to give it your all. Oh, and one last thing, I wouldn't recommend eating breakfast beforehand unless you enjoy feeling unwell during training, he added. He then handed each of them a document detailing their assignment and swiftly disappeared. Breakfast? Naruko pondered, slightly puzzled by the remark. Without dwelling on it, she picked up the document and vanished as well, leaving Sasuke and Sakura momentarily surprised by her speed. Training field, the next day. Kakashi arrived at the training field, albeit a few hours later than expected. Good morning. He greeted cheerfully. You're late, Sakura exclaimed, clearly frustrated. Kakashi, unfazed, placed a clock on the ground. This alarm is set to go off at noon. Your challenge is to take these 2 bells from me before that happens. If you fail to obtain a bell, you'll be tied to that tree stump and won't be allowed to have lunch, he explained. So that's why we were told not to eat breakfast. Interesting, thought Naruko. Seeing the puzzled expressions on their faces, Kakashi continued. Each of you only needs 1 bell. However, since there are 3 of you and only 2 bells, 1 person will definitely be left out and will have to return to the academy. Naruko was confused but chose not to ask any questions just yet. Come at me with full determination, or you won't stand a chance, Kakashi warned. But that's too risky. Sakura responded with concern. No, he's a Jonin, an elite ninja. Handling 3 students shouldn't be an issue, Naruko reasoned, shaking her head. Exactly. Now, let's begin. Kakashi announced. Sakura and Sasuke immediately took cover, while Naruko remained standing in place, facing Kakashi. Well, I had high expectations for you, Kakashi remarked, pulling out a book. Naruko placed her hands behind her head and chuckled. You know, I've been thinking about something since yesterday. Oh? Have you now? Kakashi asked, though he seemed more interested in his book. Yeah. I just don't see how 3 students are supposed to defeat the legendary copy ninja, Naruko continued. Kakashi glanced at her, wondering if she had figured something out but chose to remain silent. I think I might have an idea, but if I'm right, then it's a little unrealistic to expect us to work together so soon. Especially with someone as independent as Sasuke, Naruko said, noticing a subtle change in Kakashi's expression. Just then, a small poof sound came from where Sasuke was hiding. Naruko shook her head slightly. Kakashi, picking up on her reaction, quickly analyzed the situation. That must have been a clone. But why? So, what's next? Kakashi asked. I'll do my best to demonstrate my skills, Naruko replied confidently. At that moment, something grabbed Kakashi's ankle from beneath the ground. A second later, a clone of Naruko appeared, charging toward him with her arm covered in rock-like armor. Impressive, Kakashi thought as he substituted himself with a log. That's not all, Naruko noted as another clone, this time surrounded by dark red lightning, dashed toward the bells. She anticipated my substitution? And what is that lightning technique? Kakashi wondered. Naruko's clone was just inches away from grabbing a bell when, poof. Kakashi vanished once more. Of course, Naruko sighed internally. Moments later, Kakashi emerged from the nearby forest. Throughout all of this, the original Naruko had remained in her spot, hands still behind her head, as if she hadn't even tried to attack. I was hoping that would work, Naruko thought. She then pulled out a kunai, one that was unique, a special kunai she had acquired earlier. She had spent time familiarizing herself with it, growing comfortable using it in combat. Kakashi's eyes widened in surprise. Naruko? That's. Don't tell me you actually know how to use that kunai, he said, recognizing it immediately. It was the same kunai once wielded by someone he deeply respected. Well, I guess we're about to find out, aren't we? Naruko said as she charged at him. She attempted a strike, but Kakashi expertly dodged her attacks. As she went for a punch, Kakashi blocked, but before he could counter, a clone appeared behind him, landing a kick that sent him back a few meters. Immediately, 4 more shadow clones rushed toward Kakashi. Within moments, he had dispelled all of them. Naruko then threw several of her special kunai around Kakashi, surrounding him. So, you can use it. Kakashi muttered, astonished by her technique. Naruko dashed toward him again, engaging in close combat. Just as Kakashi prepared to counter, she activated her dark red lightning mode, using a high-speed movement technique to teleport to the nearest special kunai. In the blink of an eye, she had vanished, leaving behind a red flash. Kakashi was momentarily stunned. Did she just? Before he could react, another clone burst from underground, also surrounded by that mysterious lightning. In his moment of surprise, he was unable to stop the clone from snatching one of the bells. The clone tossed the bell to the original Naruko before disappearing in a puff of smoke. Naruko caught it, smiling as she noticed the shocked expression on the renowned copy ninja's face. How did you learn the Flying Thunder God technique, Naruko? Kakashi asked, still in disbelief. I didn't, Naruko admitted, rubbing the back of her head. What? Kakashi asked, now more confused than before. I only used the special kunai to distract you. When I teleported, I actually just used my lightning mode to move at high speed to the nearest kunai. But it looked like I teleported, didn't it? Naruko explained with a grin. Kakashi was impressed. A student had managed to outwit him and secure a bell. And that lightning mode you used. Is it really what I think it is? He asked. Yep. Though it's just a weaker version, Naruko confirmed. And that poof sound earlier? Kakashi inquired. Flashback to a few minutes ago. A shadow clone of Naruko had approached Sasuke's hiding spot, attempting to convince him. Listen, you can't defeat him alone, Naruko whispered. I don't need help. I'll get the bells on my own, Sasuke replied, unwilling to cooperate. Back to the present. Kakashi took a moment to process everything that had happened. Naruko had not only devised an intricate strategy but had also managed to deceive and impress him in the process. Well. This test is turning out to be more interesting than I expected, Kakashi murmured to himself, smiling behind his mask. Look, I understand that you're a proud Uchiha, but if you want to become a true shinobi, we have to cooperate, Naruko stated firmly. You're just a clone, aren't you? Sasuke inquired. Naruko nodded in response. Good, Sasuke said as he swiftly struck the clone with a kunai, causing it to vanish in a puff of smoke. Now, I need to find a new hiding place. Flashback ends. I see. Well, you can wait here for now. And don't even think about touching the lunch, Kakashi instructed. Oh, don't worry. I don't need to, Naruko replied casually. So, you've already had lunch? Kakashi asked. Of course. It's an important meal of the day, so important that I was willing to risk feeling a little queasy, Naruko answered with a grin. Kakashi chuckled before heading off to evaluate the remaining two students. Sasuke and Sakura were both taken aback by the level of skill Naruko had displayed. She had actually managed to steal a bell from an elite jonin, an impressive feat. Meanwhile, they remained in their positions, waiting for an opportunity to catch Kakashi off guard. What was that? How did she move so fast? And that strength? How is she so powerful? Sasuke thought, feeling both admiration and frustration. Sakura was equally shocked. She had assumed Naruko was just an average student. Since she had never spoken to her much, she had no real understanding of her capabilities. Maybe I should have teamed up with her, Sasuke considered. Just then, he heard Sakura scream. Did he get her? Sasuke turned around and spotted Kakashi standing right behind him. Without hesitation, he launched into action. He threw several shuriken, which Kakashi swiftly dodged by shifting to the right. However, Sasuke had anticipated this, and the shuriken triggered a trap he had set beforehand. A barrage of kunai shot toward Kakashi's new position, but he reacted quickly and evaded them as well. Sasuke seized the opportunity, maneuvering behind Kakashi and delivering a spinning side kick. Kakashi raised his left arm, blocking the strike, and then caught Sasuke's leg with his right hand. Sasuke attempted to land a punch, but Kakashi intercepted his fist as well. Now holding both his right hand and left leg, Kakashi had effectively immobilized him. Refusing to give up, Sasuke aimed a kick at Kakashi's head with his free leg, but Kakashi blocked that too. At that moment, Sasuke was just inches away from grabbing the remaining bell. He barely managed to graze it before Kakashi released him and leapt away. Sasuke quickly formed hand seals and unleashed his technique. Fire style, Fireball Jutsu. A blazing sphere of fire surged forward, seemingly hitting Kakashi. However, when the flames cleared, Kakashi was nowhere in sight. Behind me? Above? Sasuke wondered, scanning the area. Below you, Kakashi's voice suddenly came from beneath him. Before Sasuke could react, Kakashi grabbed his ankle and pulled him underground, leaving only his head exposed. He then calmly walked away. Meanwhile, Sakura had just awakened from the genjutsu Kakashi had placed her under. As she wandered through the training ground, she stumbled upon Sasuke's head sticking out of the ground. Oh no! Sasuke's! She gasped in horror, assuming the worst. Overwhelmed, she fainted on the spot. Sasuke, still processing what had just happened, finally managed to free himself. Moments later, Sakura regained consciousness and, upon seeing Sasuke standing before her, immediately hugged him in relief. You're alive, she exclaimed. Yes, I'm fine. You can let go now, Sasuke responded, gently prying her off. Determined, he turned in Kakashi's direction and declared, time is almost up. I was close this time, but next time, I'll get that bell. Sakura, on the other hand, was growing nervous. Naruko had already secured a bell, and Sasuke had come close. If things continued this way, she would be the only one left behind. She wanted to say something, but before she could, Sasuke had already walked away. A few moments later, the alarm rang. I was so close, Sasuke thought, frustrated. A few minutes later, the three students sat before Kakashi, awaiting his verdict. Kakashi let out a sigh. A student had actually managed to steal his bell and outmaneuver him. It was unexpected, to say the least. You all fail, he announced. Sasuke and Sakura were visibly stunned. How was it possible? Naruko had successfully obtained a bell, shouldn't that mean she passed? But Naruko managed to get a bell, Sakura pointed out, confused. Naruko remained silent, already aware of the reason for the decision. She knew Kakashi would explain soon enough. This test. Did any of you stop to consider its true purpose? Or why you were divided into teams in the first place? Kakashi asked. Seeing Sakura's puzzled expression, he continued, clearly not. Because you never took the time to think about the reason behind the teams, you missed the entire point of this test from the beginning. And that is why you failed. The true purpose of this test was Teamwork. What? So, if I had accepted Naruko's offer, I would have passed? Sasuke realized, feeling frustrated. However, Kakashi continued, because Naruko made an insightful point earlier, I am willing to give both her and Sasuke another chance. They demonstrated the most skill throughout the test. Sakura was then tied to a wooden stump as Kakashi issued his next instruction. If you two can follow a simple order, eat your lunch without sharing any with Sakura, then you pass, Kakashi declared before leaving the training field. Sakura was disappointed, though she had anticipated this outcome. At least, in some small way, I'm helping Sasuke pass, she thought, trying to find a silver lining. However, her stomach loudly protested her empty stomach. After several minutes of her stomach grumbling, Naruko made a decision. She picked up some food and moved toward Sakura. What are you doing? Stop, didn't you hear what Kakashi said? Sakura objected. Just eat. I already had my meal, so I'm not hungry anyway, Naruko replied with a reassuring smile. Wait, what do you mean you already ate? Sasuke asked, puzzled. I mean I had breakfast, Naruko clarified. But didn't, Sakura started to say, but before she could finish, Naruko interrupted. I understand what he said, but he only suggested that we shouldn't eat. He didn't directly order us. And why would anyone instruct you to skip such an important meal of the day? Naruko remarked, shaking her head before offering her lunch to her teammate. Seeing this, Sasuke also extended his own meal. Sakura, thrilled at the thought of being fed by her crush, was nearly overwhelmed with excitement, until a certain someone interrupted. That someone was none other than Naruko. No need, Naruko insisted. Like I said, I already ate, but you haven't had anything since yesterday. With that, Sasuke resumed eating his lunch. Sakura, initially furious, was about to voice her frustration when she paused to reconsider. Sasuke hasn't eaten, so he needs all the nourishment he can get right now, she reasoned. Just as Naruko took a bite of her meal, a large puff of smoke appeared. Out of it emerged Kakashi. You all pass, he declared. Naruko had anticipated this outcome. There was no way they would have been disqualified simply for sharing food. We all pass? But why? Sakura asked, visibly shocked. Kakashi observed them for a moment before explaining, you three have taken a significant step forward. Up until now, all you have done is follow my instructions without question, like obedient little machines. However, a true shinobi must look beyond the surface and seek the hidden meaning behind every command. In the world of ninja, those who break the rules may be considered dishonorable. But those who neglect their comrades are even worse. The three young ninjas, now officially Genin, looked at their instructor, admiration clear in their eyes. That's all for today. Team 7, your first mission begins tomorrow, Kakashi announced with a thumbs up. Now, let's head home. 2 months later. Nearly 2 months had passed since Naruko became a full-fledged ninja. During this time, Team 7 had completed numerous D-rank missions. However, the repetitive nature of these tasks had begun to wear on them. Throughout these weeks, Naruko diligently trained, wearing chakra-enhanced weights and gradually increasing their resistance. Whenever she had the chance, she honed her skills, even working on mastering the Hiraishin technique with the assistance of her shadow clones. While she had made progress, the technique was still too slow to be useful in battle. Nevertheless, she saw it as a step in the right direction. One day, after returning from yet another completed D-rank mission, Team 7 gathered before the Hokage for their next assignment. The upcoming missions for Team 7 include babysitting, running errands to the neighboring village. The third Hokage, Hiruzen, listed. The three Genin were growing restless, though none spoke up, except for one. Lord Third, Naruko interjected, I believe we're ready for a C-rank mission. We've successfully completed numerous D-rank tasks without fail, and I'm confident we qualify for something more challenging. You can ask Kakashi-sensei too. Kakashi, do you believe your team is prepared for a C-rank mission? Hiruzen inquired. Kakashi studied his students before nodding. Yes, Lord Third, I believe they are. After a moment of contemplation, Hiruzen made his decision. Very well, he said. Iruka, though concerned, remained silent, trusting in the Hokage's judgment. He was also quietly proud of his former students. I will assign you a C-rank mission, the protection of a particular individual, Hiruzen announced. Bring him in. A moment later, an elderly man entered the room. He had gray hair, a large beard, and dark eyes. His attire consisted of a sleeveless V-neck shirt, an obi sash, pants, and sandals. A towel was draped around his neck, and he wore a pointed hat. The distinct scent of alcohol lingered around him as he held a bottle in hand. Is this some kind of joke? The man scoffed. These kids are supposed to be my bodyguards? Are they really ninjas? Naruko observed him for a moment but decided to remain silent, focusing instead on her excitement for their first C-rank mission. Receiving no reaction, the man continued, "The name's Tazuna. I'm a bridge builder. Your job is to protect me until I safely return to my country and complete my bridge. You're all expected to ensure my safety, no matter what it takes." Naruko grinned. "All right. My name is Naruko Uzumaki. Let's do our best on our first C-rank mission. Departure and unexpected danger." With that, Team 7 and Tazuna set off. At one point, Naruko paused and glanced toward the treetops on her left. She didn't see anything unusual, but she was certain she had sensed something. However, when nothing appeared, she quickly rejoined the group. As they walked, Sakura, Tazuna, and Kakashi engaged in conversation about the land of waves. Not long after, they passed by a small puddle of water. Suddenly, two shinobi emerged from it, moving swiftly. Before anyone could react, they launched a chain attack at Kakashi, binding him tightly before striking. "First one down," one of them remarked. The Genin were momentarily stunned. They had just witnessed their sensei being taken down. Naruko hesitated for a split second, and in that moment, the two assailants moved toward her. Acting quickly, she substituted herself with a nearby log. Reappearing behind them, she swiftly formed a shadow clone and sent it charging forward. The enemies reacted by slicing the clone with their sharp metal claws. However, as the clone dispersed into smoke, Naruko seized the opportunity, dashing through the mist with her fist reinforced by earth chakra. She aimed a powerful punch at her opponent, shattering his weapon upon impact. Without giving them time to recover, she executed a spinning hook kick, striking the second attacker squarely in the face. Both shinobi stumbled backward. Realizing they couldn't overpower her, they suddenly shifted their focus to Tazuna. Before Naruko could intercept, another figure leapt in, Kakashi. "Kakashi-sensei?" Naruko gasped. Her eyes flickered to where he had been struck earlier, now revealing shattered wood. Of course. A substitution technique. I should have known. I let my emotions cloud my judgment for a moment. With remarkable speed, Kakashi subdued both opponents, rendering them unconscious. "Well done, Naruko," he praised. Sasuke, meanwhile, clenched his fists. He had wanted to jump in, but Naruko had beaten him to it. "She was faster than me," he thought. Kakashi then turned to Tazuna. These attackers were Chunin-level shinobi from Kirigakure, known for their persistence in battle. They wouldn't have attacked without a reason. "If you knew that, why did you let them attack?" Tazuna asked. "I could have stopped them at any time," Kakashi replied. "But I needed to determine their true target. Were they after one of us? Or you?" Tazuna remained silent. "The mission we accepted was classified as a standard escort against common threats, such as bandits. However, if you anticipated an attack from trained shinobi, this should have been listed as a higher-ranked mission," Kakashi continued. "Should we turn back?" Sakura asked. "We're still Genin. This might be too much for us." "No," Naruko said firmly. "This is our first high-level mission, and we're going to see it through. Don't worry, old man, I'll protect you no matter what." Kakashi smiled at her determination. Then, turning to Sakura, he asked, "What about you?" Sakura hesitated but ultimately nodded. "If everyone's going, then I won't back down either." "It's decided then," Kakashi affirmed. Tazuna shifted uneasily before finally speaking. "Sensei. There's something you need to know." Tazuna began explaining the dangers he was facing, particularly from a man named Gato. He was rumored to be one of the wealthiest individuals alive. Tazuna went on to clarify why Gato was after him. He didn't want the bridge to be completed. That was why Gato had sent mercenaries after him, and there was a strong chance he would send more. Tazuna also admitted why he hadn't disclosed this information earlier. His homeland was struggling financially, and he simply couldn't afford a B-rank mission. After finishing his explanation, he sighed and said, "I understand if you want to turn back now. But if you leave, I won't stand a chance." "Don't worry, old man. We've already decided to help you," Naruko said with a reassuring thumbs up. Kakashi nodded in agreement. Hearing this, Tazuna's mood lifted. "Thank you," he said gratefully. To reach their destination, Team 7 took a boat across the water. Once they arrived on the other side, they expressed their appreciation to the boatmen and set off. Naruko remained highly alert. She had a feeling another attack could happen at any moment and wanted to be prepared. Suddenly, sensing something unusual, Naruko reacted instantly, throwing a kunai in that direction. Kakashi had also detected it, but when they turned to see what it was, they found a snow rabbit. "Did you just?" Sakura started, looking at Naruko in disbelief. She raised a fist, attempting to lightly hit her for startling the poor animal. Naruko easily dodged, raising an eyebrow. "What?" she asked, genuinely confused. Sakura tried again, but Naruko sidestepped once more. "You should probably stop," Naruko advised calmly. Realizing she wasn't going to land a hit, Sakura huffed and lowered her hand. Meanwhile, Kakashi studied the rabbit closely. "That's a snow hare. But it's springtime. Why does it still have its winter coat?" he wondered. Before he could voice his thoughts, he suddenly sensed an imminent attack, but Naruko reacted first. "Everyone, take cover," she shouted. A massive sword came hurtling through the air, stopping only when it embedded itself into a tree. Standing on its hilt was a tall, well-built man with grayish skin, short spiky black hair, dark brown eyes, and small eyebrows. He was dressed in loose striped pants and arm warmers that extended up to his elbows, with matching leg coverings. His upper body was left mostly uncovered, apart from a strap across his chest. Well. If it isn't Momochi Zabuza, the rogue from the land of the mists," Kakashi said, recognizing the figure. Naruko instinctively prepared for battle, but Kakashi held up a hand to stop her. "Stay back. I'll handle this. He's far too strong for any of you," he warned, lifting his headband. "He's going to use it? I should be careful," Naruko thought, stepping back slightly. "This is about to get intense," Kakashi said, his tone serious. Dear viewers, that wraps up this segment. Stay tuned for more exciting content coming your way. Thank you for your support. 6 Path Weeb.